Good morning, and welcome to Shouting Over Static, Season 2, Episode 5? I don't know.
I have no idea, yeah.
I jumped straight in there, and I actually don't know.
I don't know. What have we played? The
We played
Hyperlight
Doom,
Drifter? Doom?
Splinter Cell, To the
Yeah.
Moon, Hyperlight Drifter, Episode 5. I knew
Yeah,
it. I didn't
nailed it,
know why I
mate.
doubted myself.
Nailed it.
The dulcet tones you can hear there also helping me count. There's Jack. How you doing, Jack?
Yeah, I'm not doing too bad. I've got a bit of a cold, but I guess we'll power through.
Is that the post-holiday blues, mate?
Yeah, that and yeah, just coming back in and
Caught
coming
the
back to the
sniffles
miserable
again.
weather.
Yeah, mate, you got the post-sesh sniffles. It happens. There is Dylan as well. How you doing, D-man?
Howdy. I think I'm also getting a cold. I feel a bit bunged up and headachy, but
Oh, mate,
such
it's
is the
autumn.
life of a university student in October.
This is true. You are gonna be exposed to a bunch of disgusting people.
I have to teach them as well.
Oh,
One of them asked to borrow my pen the other day, and it turned out he had a cold. The fucker.
see, this is why you shouldn't teach. You should,
It's true.
as long as none of them offer to teach you what their spit tastes like, you'll probably be okay.
Oh, but that's what I love. I need to know all the flavours of spit, Mark.
There are so many.
At least 52.
A flavour of spit for every week in the year.
Exactly.
Uh, all right. Well, I don't even know if I want to talk about video games anymore. I feel a bit sick.
Well, that's been Shouting Over Static. You can find us on SoundCloud.
We're going to talk about Vanquish this week because we've been playing it for the last few. I managed to finish Vanquish. I believe Jack has managed to finish Vanquish.
Yep.
Sure.
Literally about half an hour ago, I guess.
Alright, so Jack's going to have the freshest memories of Vanquish. I finished it last week. Chor is going to not have finished Vanquish because Chor's not here. I believe Chor's played like half an hour of it and then just spent the... He claimed that he could... It's not a very long game.
No.
It's like a 5-hour game. Maybe 6. Chor has somehow managed to not find that time in the last month, so... He's
But
been
as we
finished-
said last week, he has been moving constantly. I don't know what he's doing.
I
but
do feel like he's moved house
Yeah.
like several times in the last month.
I think he's done it once, but has just taken a real long time to do it.
Like, he's got a job. I don't know how he's... This isn't important. It's whatever. Dylan, you've also had technical and Destiny difficulties, I think.
Yeah. Well,
I don't necessarily want to call them purely technical difficulties, because you have also managed to get up to the soft power level in Destiny 2 Forsaken.
I did. I got to the soft level a few weeks ago, and then it started breaking.
Maybe that's the problem.
Oh no! Well, it was already breaking before that, but it was working enough that I could play, and then it started not turning on.
Oh shit.
And it takes a real long time to figure out how to get it to work each time I turn it on. So the only times I really put enough effort in were when I told my brother I'd play Forsaken with him, because I spent collectively like £140 on 2 copies of that DLC. So
So we're going to
I
fucking
wasn't
play
going to not play that.
That
yeah.
makes sense. Like, yeah.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
But I got a bit of Vanquish in. I got a lot of a feel for it, so I know how I feel about the gameplay.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of just like, there isn't a huge variance, actually. It's not... there is... So weirdly enough, actually, the only time that I have like a few minor comments about stuff that happens in like the levels, later levels, but we'll get into that maybe with Jack, I don't know. But yeah, we're talking about Vanquish. I don't know, does someone want to talk a bit about what Vanquish is before we talk about what Vanquish is to us?
Yeah, I can.
Jack, you go for it.
So it's a action third-person shooter game. developed by none other than Platinum Games. And it was released, when was it?
2011 or something like that?
2010, I think. 2010.
2010, baby.
Oh
Cool.
yeah, end
Yeah.
of. I was close.
Yeah.
3 months off.
Yeah, it's so you assume the role of what's his name, Sam Gideon, as a DARPA agent, and
Yeah.
essentially you are, I guess you're in like a bionic suit, and you've got your essentially you're fighting like the Russia or a couple of guys from Russia who are sort of plotting against America to try like take over. Yeah, it's alright. Like it's got cool movement in it as well, so you can like slide around all of the places. You got jet boosters in your suit as well. It's got a nice selection of weapons. I guess we'll get into some of that stuff and more of the gameplay stuff later. But yeah, essentially you're going through fighting some weird dudes. Yeah,
They're robots, right? They're
yeah.
they're all
like
like
Gorgies or something, I think. Gorgies.
Russian
That's what they're
robot
called.
men.
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce that. Everyone in the game just calls them RIs, which I believe stands for robotic infantry, but I don't know.
That makes sense. And there's a great bit where Sam punches one in the head and goes, "You're an old model." It doesn't make any sense because he's not a robot, but they are. So
I
I
mean,
don't know what
maybe-
he's going for there.
Maybe they are just an older model of robot. There are other models of robot that you fight. Maybe it's not like a cool self-aggrandizing pun. Maybe it's just a factual statement. Maybe it's like, you should get the firmware upgrade. Bang! I don't know. Yeah, you touched on it a bit there, Jack. Like the story in this game is
Bizarre.
I don't want to be rude, but I would say it's stupid and unimportant.
Yeah. I mean, like, there are certainly some points where, yeah, it sort of loses its way, I guess you can say.
Yeah,
It's just like a typical Hollywood action film, but then with a heavy dose of anime in it.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
I
like
mean,
if-
it is very fucking anime.
It's if you got Sylvester Stallone at his prime and then made him Japanese,
And about half the size.
yeah, and put him in a robot suit.
Yeah.
What film/game would that be? And it would be this game.
Yeah,
And that's why it's great.
yeah, basically. I do love I know, the action movie thing. I think is very apt because everyone in this game talks like they're in an action movie. I actually found myself having flashbacks to Splinter Cell Conviction and Michael Ironside's incredible vocal delivery.
Yeah, they all sort of have that like gruffly tone to their voice.
I've played a lot of this game with Katie sitting there sort of on the sofa next to me. And she just couldn't get over just how stupid all of the accents are, and just burns. Just, Marines complete the mission.
It's incredible how accurate that accent sounds
Yeah.
Spot on.
to literally
Yeah.
every character.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, I've made a terrible mistake here because I wrote down a bunch of choice quotes, but I only wrote down segments of choice quotes to like remind myself what the quote was, and now I can't really remember what a lot of the quotes were. Like I've got rat head ass written here. Which
Nice.
is the one about teleporting, but I don't remember the exact quote. It's a very silly game.
It's ridiculous, and I mean, that's kind of with the gameplay it kind of makes sense. There's a whole thing of I remember reading. I didn't come across them myself, but I was reading something about it, and they were talking about how some of the enemies have ghetto blasters that turn into miniguns. Does that actually happen?
I don't know. I don't
'Cause-
think it.
I knew the game was ridiculous. I think you might have to look around for them. They might be. You might like the sort of grunt party in Halo Reach and stuff like that. It doesn't necessarily make itself obvious, but I was reading that just like I know it's a silly game, but doesn't feel like that kind of silly. But turns out it is. It's just completely ridiculous. But it fits with the gameplay kind of, because you're just sliding around shooting things, and I think that's ridiculous anyway.
Yeah, so the other thing that Jack touched on, I guess, is the robot suit.
Mm.
The robot suit is like it's the thing that this game is all about, really. It's the thing that sells this game. It's the thing that makes it not just a pretty actually generic Japanese third-person shooter, because basically all Japanese third-person shooters are about fighting robots.
Yeah.
But this one has got the robot suit, or the arse suit, whatever the hell it is.
It's like
robots fighting robots. Isn't it called like ARA or ARI or something?
It's called like the augmented reaction suit.
Yeah, it's ours.
Ours,
Wow.
yeah.
Ours. So it's not the arse suit. It's just ours.
He does seem like a bit of an Ars, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Do we want to do gameplay or story and characters first, guys?
I don't think we can really do anything about story and
I was gonna
characters,
say,
can
yeah.
we?
Like, I guess we can talk about like Sam Gideon a bit. Like, I don't know
But
about
how
the
much
story.
do you really think you can talk about Sam Gideon?
Not that much. Like, yeah.
He
this is what
loves
I'm
to
saying.
smoke.
He has a prepubescent beard and he smokes a lot.
He likes
He
to
loves
smoke.
his friends.
He likes to smoke, but he always there's so many scenes where he lights up a cigarette and smokes like 2 puffs and then he just throws it on the floor.
Yeah, he doesn't like to finish cigarettes.
No, like it's the most bizarre thing.
There's
He's an
a pretty-
athlete, man. He's got to look after his lungs.
There's a pretty good bit at the end where you get thrown off a edge into a chasm, and he barely catches himself with one hand, and he's hanging over like 100-meter chasm, and with one hand, and he's just been like punched real fucking hard, and so instead of pulling himself up, he sort of sighs to himself and pulls out a cigarette and smokes 2 drags of it, and then throws it away, and then jumps up and fights some Russian dudes.
It's so weird.
That was pretty good. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think Sam's alright.
He's a good main character.
I've got here, I think my second comment after knee boosting feels great is Sam is such a prick. I love it.
There are important comments to make about this game.
He's just such a prick, and it's great.
He's a charming prick. He's not a prick. Yeah.
Yeah, like he is definitely an enjoyable bastard. I would put him, say, on par with To the Moon's Dr. Watts.
Oh wow, that's quite the, what word am I looking for? Something to live up to. Expectation? Character?
Yeah, I don't know. I really enjoyed just how much of a bastard Sam was all the time, because he wasn't really at heart. He wasn't a bastard.
No.
He was
There
putting
are-
up a front.
There are like 3, I think, different points in this game where Robert Burns is like, "Ah, you leave him behind," and Sam's like, "No, we've got to save the Marines," and then you just fight to save a bunch of extra dudes because Sam cares, really, even though he's a
but
bastard.
the first time he does that, you fight to save a bunch, and then like a load of other guys die because you saved that one guy. So maybe Robert Burns. Wait, he's not. Is he Robert Burns?
I think he's. I think
he
he's Lieutenant Colonel Robert Burns.
Yeah. So the other guy, not protagonist, definitely, but also not main antagonist. I guess he's kind of is the poet laureate of Scotland, but with
Maybe.
a robot arm.
With a fucking huge robot arm.
Because I mean Robert Burns, the poet laureate, was a Scottish. I don't know if he was the poet laureate. Maybe I think he was. Was widely regarded as the national poet of Scotland, but I mean, obviously that's where Burns and stuff comes from.
Yeah.
Apparently, also leader of an American Marine unit in the future.
Yeah, I mean, it says here on Lieutenant Colonel Robert Burns's Vanquish wiki page, Burns shares a name with the famous 18th century Scottish poet Robert Burns, although it's unknown if this was a deliberate reference by the developers or merely a coincidence. Burns enjoys drinking bourbon, which evolved from whiskey, which was created by Scots who emigrated to America hundreds of years ago.
Ah, yeah, but any Scots would be very sad about bourbon, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a tenuous link being made by the wiki to try and make up for what is clearly just an accident.
Yeah.
Because there's if you want to have a character called Robert Burns who directly references the Scottish poet Robert Burns, you have him drink scotch. You don't
Yeah.
have him drink bourbon, which is an American whiskey.
He just drinks bourbon because he's an American rough guy, and that's what they all do, right?
Yeah.
They do all drink bourbon. He's voiced by Stephen Blum, fun fact, which when I saw that in the credits I was like, that explains the accent.
Who's Stephen Blum?
Stephen Blum is a high-profile anime actor who voices Spike Spiegel from Cowboy Bebop.
That does explain the accent.
Yeah, he's good shit.
Proud of you, Steve Blum.
He's also been in something else as well where he does the ridiculous accent. I don't remember what it is though.
He's in Legend of Korra. I don't know what character he is though.
Yeah, Steve Blum is a prolific voice actor who's been in bear things. I think he is also in Metal Gear, possibly is what I'm thinking of, and does something cool in Metal Gear.
Probably. Who isn't in Metal Gear? I know I am.
Yeah, who did you voice in Metal Gear Solid?
Random Grunt number 5. He says the line, "Watch out for that potato!" I had to record it 7 times.
Yeah, it took you 7 times to get to that incredible read.
Because I'm a professional. I only need to do 7. Always 7. Never more, never less. 7.
He is the voice of the Brutes in Halo 3.
Oh,
There we go, that's one you know.
all of them?
All of them. Every single one.
Even like Tartarus? I don't know if the brutes, other than him, say much, do
This
they?
just says Brutes. It'll be like how like the grunts and stuff. It will be Stephen Blum will have been the person in the studio just going like "Arr, arr," into a microphone.
And when he loses his armor,
That was a lot, but yes, that one.
that's what they do. They get angry and become stronger because they've got no armor on now.
That's how armor works.
It is, yeah.
Can
When you
confirm.
lose your armor, instead of being tactical and hiding, you run full force at the guy who just shot off all your armor. Because that is how you take over space. Fun fact. Maybe the Russians should have done that. When that guy lost his space armor, instead of being not there, using a nuke, #spoilers, he should have just run at the guy. Taken his lesson from Steve Blum.
My boy Steve.
Stevie
So-
Blum knows what's up.
So
Is it
let's
Blum or Bloom?
I don't know. I say Blum, like plum.
Blum like plum or plume like plume. Wait, fuck, I messed that up. Let's move on. We're derailed.
So the plot of this game, if you want to call it a plot. So I actually do have a slight problem with how they tell the plot in this game because so the plot of this game is the Russians are attacking, so you should go fight the Russians, which is fair, totally reasonable. But then they want to do like a double cross twist at the end, which is fair. You want to have like your third act surprise, whatever, and they want to be like, and so the actual plot is that the President of the United States got the Russians, or bankrolled the Russian separatists to take over Russia so that there could be a new Cold War and it would boost the economy, except for the Russian separatists decided that they were going to double-cross the president and use a space laser to destroy San Francisco, and so you and some Marines go and fight the Russians, but actually the Marines are there to take over the space laser and defeat Moscow as like a counter San Francisco, and so and then it just kind of farts out because you don't defeat the main bad guy at the end.
Yeah.
it sets up real hard for a sequel because you don't defeat the main bad guy, and the president commits suicide
Yep.
in quite a graphic scene.
It's intense, yeah. You get a bloody screen.
Yeah.
You see, like, yeah, it's brain matter. It's next,
I
but
want to watch it in 4K.
whoa, yeah.
It's lumpy, baby.
I want to watch it in Oculus Rift so I can really see the lumps.
Oh god.
Oh.
Um,
I no longer want VR to become big.
what just ruined VR? But
Maybe Vanquish is just like the most ambitious game ever made, and that's why it's taken 7 years.
for us to play it. What?
No, Vanquish 2, I mean, sorry.
Oh right, okay. It's like what? What are you talking about?
So there is a sequel on the way. It's just that ambitious because Sam is inspired by Russian Man and learns to fly, and now you've got to. It's hard to do slides in 3 dimensions.
All right.
It's a shocked silence. I love it.
So yeah, there's like a grip of double crosses in the final act, which
Yeah.
is fine, but they kind of hint at the double crosses earlier in the game, but don't really explain them.
Yeah.
So like in like Act 2 or something, you get like a video of the president talking to the leader of like the evil Russian separatists, explaining like, oh, this wasn't the deal, but doesn't explain what the deal was in the first place.
Yeah.
So you're left wondering what it is perhaps that the president was trying to do when they assisted the Russians in getting control of the giant space laser. They don't really explain what the end result was, or why this wasn't the intended end result. So then you end up just being really confused about what the actual plot of the game is for like the next 3 acts, or at least I was.
I think the main takeaway from all of it is that this game is definitely not about the story.
No.
The entire point of playing this game is just to slide around shooting faceless grunts.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
it
I
achieves that
I
very
want to
well.
have a point about the story, but yeah, it is stupid and unimportant.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can try and overthink and overanalyze the story because there's something goes on, but it's not coherent and cohesive enough, is it? That you can actually consider it in any way when the game is clearly intended to just fucking play with this mechanic for a few hours, have fun with it, and shoot some big robots
Yeah.
Yeah,
in space.
yeah, basically.
Which
Well,
is,
so let's talk about shooting the robots in space then.
I think I mean, it's definitely. I'd be surprised if anybody came for anything other than I quite enjoyed the shooting the robots in space, but it got very boring and repetitive quite quickly for me.
Yeah.
think-
I guess the thing with I think that it was always gonna be like that. You know, I think going into it, I thought it was gonna be very repetitive, and I think that that's just something that I guess I know a lot of other companies and developers and whatever will vary it up sometimes, but I definitely think that I guess it's like a symptom sometimes of third-person shooter games, is that it does become very much the same after a while.
I don't know. There's ways of making.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, there's plenty of shooters that don't fall into that problem, right?
Yeah, I understand, but I feel like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I didn't mind it. You know, I think on the first couple of missions of the first act, I was sort of, getting to grips with the controls of the thing, and then after that, I felt myself getting into the shooting mechanics a bit more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I do understand where you're coming from in terms of it being repetitive, because it is pretty much the same of you sliding around killing guys.
And I mean, I was gonna say it just kind of felt that a lot of the areas was you'd go into an area, all the Russians would come in, you'd
Yeah.
shoot them, and then you'd move to the next area.
Yeah.
But then that seems very much just like that's just lots of games, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot
But
of
I
games
don't know
don't let
what-
you move to the next area by sliding on your knees.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't really know what makes it different from any other shooting game where that's the same thing that happens, right? But there was definitely a feeling of it for me for that. I just felt like each time I went to a new place, it was just like, well, I'm just doing the same thing, and I'm quite bored. At first, I was really enjoying it because I like the sliding around and stuff. But then I think as fluid and stuff as the mechanics were meant to be, they were also way too restricting because obviously it was all on the ground, and like there was still stuff in the way, but it wasn't easy to like clamber over. You could clamber over cover and stuff. It had the typical sort of Gears of War style cover, but I don't know. There was too much limit to the movement, I thought, for a game that was meant to be about the movement, and that just kind of put me off, I think.
Yeah, I can sympathise with that. I don't know. I didn't necessarily have the same takeaway from it. I actually quite enjoyed the combat, but then I guess it's one of those weird ones where it is kind of what you make of it, because
Yeah,
it's very, very easy. There were points where I definitely found myself just sitting behind a wall with the assault rifle, just like taking shots, and then I kind of when I was you have to sort of I had to force myself to not do that, and I had to force myself to slide around and like do slow motion shots while sliding and like change up the weapons I was using. And I found
Yeah.
I ended up like almost exclusively equipping like really short range weapons, which just kind of
yeah,
forced me to get in. Like I was basically rolling with the boost machine gun, the shotgun, and the armor piercing or the anti armor pistol.
Oh, really? Okay.
Like basically constantly, because it's just like really powerful, but you have to get way up on people to use them,
Yeah.
which then just
yeah.
kind of forces you to be like constantly sliding at people and around people and getting up super close and taking a slow mo shot and then like sliding away and shit, because otherwise like you just can't really engage. I don't know. That may just that may have just been me though, and like the way I chose to engage
That
with the combat. I don't know.
that's probably a way I think that would make it a bit more fun because I did find the fact that like, I've not come across a lot of those ones yet. I've got like shotgun and I've got a fair few things, but I've not come across a pistol. I don't think so.
It's a shame because you'd love the anti-armor pistol because it's literally just the Halo One Magnum.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
I would like that.
Like it is it's like 8 rounds. It's got a zoom on the right stick. It's super fucking powerful. It feels really heavy. Yeah, it's literally just the Halo One Magnum. It's sick.
And it's just like I think that sort of I should play it like that of just the making myself getting close because I did find that there were points where it was like oh it clearly wants me to try and flank because there's a whole thing about there's the enemies that set up a shield and
Yeah.
you can't it's quite hard to shoot the sort of turret guys from the front, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So obviously it wants you to go, but like you say, at a lot of the points it is just easier to get your assault rifle or your heavy machine gun out and just sit there taking shots, or using the sniper and just taking them out.
Mm.
And it's just like that completely defeats the point of the movement system and kind of makes it a bit meh.
I don't
think
know.
maybe-
I mean, I found myself like using the assault rifle and the heavy machine gun quite a bit, and still like getting the same amount of enjoyment out of the whole movement system in the game.
yeah,
Yeah, I
Um,
think it just depends, I guess, doesn't it, on like personal preference.
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
Which honestly, I think maybe that's actually. I didn't really think of that, but I guess now talking with you guys, there is quite a big variance to this game, isn't there, in terms of the ways you can engage with it. Like you mentioned, sort of on your lead in there, Jack, that there is a huge amount of guns in this game. There's
Yeah,
like a
man.
lot of
Like
different weapons.
there's I think there are 12 or 13 different weapons. I mean, some of them I don't really understand the point of. But other ones certainly like it does like again like we're saying, it does give I guess a bit of added variability into the way that you tackle what you're coming up against.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
for sure.
I mean, some of the weapons, there's stuff like because obviously the LFE, which is just like the BFG from Doom, right?
Yeah, I mean,
It's
Effectively,
just,
yeah.
and I mean that just sort of fucking powers through things, but you get what, like 4 shots or whatever. But I thought one that was really interesting, and like, I mean, it's a typical gun, but it was quite cool. That, did you use the disc gun, the disc launcher, or whatever it
see,
was called?
I used it when I first found it, and I was like, this could be cool. And then again, it was one of those things that I think, yeah, it's cool and it's awesome and it's a great idea. And yeah, I mean, it's been in other games before, something of that sort of nature. But I didn't find myself wanting to use it, I guess.
I thought, because that was one of those cases of the guns being very, you like, suited to different things, because that disc, despite being like huge discs, you'd expect it to be great. It was really good at taking out infantry, and that was about it.
Mm.
It was rubbish at anything big, and if you tried to shoot the like turret guys with it, it would just bounce off the shield of the turret,
Yeah.
which I thought was a bit ridiculous. But like, it would do no damage at all. But it was quite cool because like they'd spin around and stuff. So there was that, that bit on the freight train where you're being chased by like ships and stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you use the disc launcher there, because the discs just fucking spin around and stay there for a while, it would just absolutely wreck those ships.
So, that's cool.
So there were like situations where certain guns were actually way better than you'd expect. And the only reason I had, because it wasn't on the freight train, so I just had it left over from the bit before because I wasn't using it. And so like, there are guns that are good in different situations, and I do like that fact. Like, they are really different guns, other than like the heavy machine gun and the assault rifle obviously aren't that different, but everything else is actually pretty varied. I thought the guns were sort of really well thought through.
For sure. Though, I
They
mean, there
had
were
their
definitely
place.
some that, like, the lock-on laser,
Yeah.
I thought it never really like found a niche for me personally.
It
Yeah.
wasn't really quite good enough at anything, was it?
Yeah, like it never seemed to do enough damage to justify just how long it took to actually like target anything with it.
Because
Yeah.
I mean, and it didn't. I don't think it had a big enough range, because you could target maybe like 3 infantry at once, and at that point it's like, well, the amount of time it takes to target them, it's probably easier to just shoot them.
Mm.
And then obviously it's good at, like, I think it was good for if you had a big enemy, like a big, not boss, but like those huge hulking dudes. It was good at getting lots of shots off of them quick without just having to sit there and aim. But you'd only do like a minuscule amount of damage for hitting it with like 5 rockets. So it was kind of, I did find myself using it quite a bit, but I didn't. It was, I think, my least favorite gun.
Yeah, I think again it is one of those things because I think the first time that I used it was when you were like trying. I think it might have been like late Act 1 or early Act 2 when you're trying to like scale the walls and get through the barriers and whatever, but all of the barricades, and then you just pick it up and you're like, hey, this could be quite cool, and you get a bunch of guys coming towards you, and then yeah, like you say, it takes a while to lock on. It doesn't do as much damage as you were perhaps hoping it would do, and again, I feel like I certainly underused it. I think that yeah, like I said, I think I'm mainly stuck with the assault rifle and the heavy assault rifle throughout the game. So yeah, I mean, I did use the rocket launcher a couple of times because that seems to be quite effective. But yeah, I mean, I like I say, I mainly just stuck with the, I guess, 2 base assault rifles.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I did find myself using those a lot.
Yeah, like I guess I kind of told myself very early on, it's like I'm not just going to use this assault rifle, like whatever they say about in like the weapon description about how like you should always have the assault rifle knocking around or whatever. I told myself I'm just not going to use it because I don't know. There was so much going on in that game, and I found whenever I used the assault rifle, it was just like average enough that I had to then start like playing the game like a cover shooter as opposed to a sick knee slidey slow
Yeah.
motion shooter.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, there are certainly times where you did have to, like, well, I certainly had to duck into cover a lot more often than I would have wanted to. But yeah, I mean, I think another interesting thing about the game is the way that you get the weapon upgrades as well.
So once you've got a weapon, if you go around and pick up more, so obviously you can go around and there'll be other like weapons of well, there'll be the same weapon on the floor, and you can pick it up, and then for each weapon you pick up, you get a slight increase to some of, I don't know, you might get an increase in the ammo capacity, in the damage, and there's also, you can pick up the random like upgrade drops as well, which you can use to upgrade your, or I guess they automatically upgrade your weapon as well. And I think I, for a large part of the game, certainly, I was like just rocking the fully upgraded assault rifle.
Yeah.
So I had like
Nice.
1,200 bullets, I think it was, which just meant that I could just spray endlessly essentially, and not have to worry about it. But yeah, I mean, I guess I guess I am a bit disappointed in myself that I didn't actually like, try and get some variability into what guns I was using. But I mean, I quite enjoyed playing it with just the base weapons. So
I think there's no shame in that. To be fair, I think I think the thing about this game is it is 100%. The combat is what you make it, and if you are engaging with it on a level using just like the base gear, then that is totally valid.
Yeah.
I found that the anti-armor pistol was just the Halo 1 Magnum, so I was like, well, I need to use this for the entire game because it's fucking cool.
So, you know the screen that comes up at the end of the game, Mark, when you get like all of your final results?
Yes.
I took an image of it, and on the topic of using cover, it says my cover usage is 70.03%.
Oh, mine was like 20 or something.
So that just goes to show how how my, I guess, gameplay experience was a lot more different to yours. So
Yeah, mine was like 20% cover or some shit. Yeah, it was super low. Huh, that's really interesting actually. I didn't expect that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I found myself ducking into cover, like even playing through it. I found myself doing it a lot, like just instinctively. I guess it's just mine's instant reaction if I'm being shot at in a shooting game. It's just to duck behind cover.
Get into cover. Yeah. I mean, that is totally legit.
I think it did kind of make me want to just play Gears of War.
Yeah.
I've been thinking a lot about playing Gears of War recently. I think Vanquish might be part of it, to be honest. Yeah.
The cover
and
system
Splinter Cell
is
as well.
very similar, but I found points where the cover system in Vanquish was really like buggy and just annoying. Like there would be points I'd be just behind cover, waiting to shoot someone, and he'd just stand up as I looked around.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, this is useless. This isn't cover. You're just getting me shot. And
Bless him. Sam Gideon is not quite as talented at taking cover as perhaps he'd like to be.
he needs that Phoenix experience. It's all about cover, baby. But yeah, I mean, there are games that have done that cover, and I mean that's like we were saying, the point of the game isn't necessarily all about cover, but you can play it that way. But I just thought the cover was not quite good enough. That it didn't work quite smoothly enough. I did like the fact that you could like how smoothly you could go between sliding and being in cover and stuff. I thought that was good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For sure.
I definitely found myself, again, doing it quite a lot, where I'd hop into one bit of cover and then maybe get flanked on either side, and then just be able to zoom out of there and go to another bit of cover, which is basically what I was doing for most of the game, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's cool. I don't know. So there are a few bits in the game where they try to sort of change up the gameplay. There's a few like on rails turret sequences. There's a few boss fights, and there's also one bit that is really, really terrible, like really awful, that I think we need to highlight, which is the stealth monorail section. So did you get to that, Dylan?
I did not. No, that sounds not good though.
I was waiting for someone to bring that up.
Oh, it's so fucked. So they put you on a monorail with 2 snipers. So that is, if you're like I am and you haven't used the sniper rifle at that point and you haven't upgraded it, that is 20 sniper shots.
Yep.
And they put you on this monorail, and then they give you. It's at night, and there are searchlights spawning in, and you just have to shoot all these searchlights. And if one of the searchlights spots you, it spawns a big old enemy that will start shooting the monorail, and the monorail has a limited health bar. And so
Yeah.
then you just have to move through this it's not even a particularly long section, but it's just terrible because
It
trying to
feels
get the
long.
shots off on some of those searchlights is so bad.
Yeah, certainly I guess the slow moving aspect of that monorail certainly makes it feel a lot longer because I mean, like the first time I went into that mission, I wasn't quite sure what was going on, and so you get like Elena or someone come over the radio being like, "Hey, look, there's like a silent pistol or a silent gun on a monorail." I was like, "Well, I don't see anything that says silence on it." Like you go over to like the sniper rifles and it just says, yeah, this is a sniper rifle. It doesn't say you're silenced or whatever. So I found myself being like, okay, what's going on? And then I see a light looking at me, and I shot it with obviously an unsilenced weapon. And then yeah, I got really confused at the start,
Yeah.
like the first time that I did it, and then I actually realized I was like, oh okay, so I picked up the sniper rifle and I was like, oh okay, so it's silenced. And then yeah, like you say, it's a tough old time just waiting around.
Yeah,
It
it's
sounds like one of
just.
those. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it just sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like one of those sort of situations that lots of these games get into of like we need to switch it up a bit, we need to add something else, and then they realize that it's completely unnecessary. It's like, yeah, it needed switching up, but I don't think there was any way of doing it that sort of switching it up isn't what you want. You don't want just completely forced, boring things. You want to use the same mechanics but in a slightly different way, right?
Totally.
Rather
There's.
than, I think on rail things are always just a bit shit.
For
So
sure.
reading through like a couple of description points for the mission, it says, you obviously have to keep an eye on your ammo count, and it says if you have 2 shots left, you will automatically get spotted, and 4 spotlights will appear. Which that's
Yeah,
bizarre.
yeah, it's just a shit level. It's just so terrible. And it ruins some of the pacing. Considering there are parts of the game where they do you're on a monorail, you need to defend it
Yeah.
quite well, and it's fun and exciting and engaging. The fact that they do this bit where the entire thing slows down and you've got limited ammo and limited health, and it's just terrible. It's a real black spot in the middle of this game's story, which is a shame, really, because there are points where it's super good, like the Creon
Yeah.
fight, which is immediately after that kind of section, where then there's a series of missions where you're trying to take down this huge capital warship that transforms into a giant robot tank thing.
What does Burns say? Burns is like, oh, it's over 1,000 feet. You're like, oh man.
Yeah. Oh,
Lots of feet.
it's ridiculous, but it's a really cool section because you first fight up towards it, and it's floating above you,
Yeah.
and then you finally get to where it's landed, and you're fighting through all these ruined city blocks as you're trying to get up on it, and then you have to try and disable it so that you can get into it, and then you get into it and you fight through it, and you fight a bunch of bosses through it as you climb to the top of it, and then you get to the top of it and you disable it and it explodes, and then you have to escape through the ruined city afterwards after it's been destroyed, and it's a really really cool section. Immediately after, because as I was playing the game, I was going through it. It's like, oh, I remember, because I thought I'd only played a little bit of it before. I was like, oh no, I definitely played this bit. I definitely played this bit. I definitely played this bit. And then it turns out the bit where I had actually stopped playing and hadn't seen any more of the game was that forced stealth bit.
Oh really?
Yeah, I didn't remember even that was the reason. I don't know if it was the reason I stopped, but that was definitely the bit that I had stopped at the first time I played this game through, because that bit just sucks, man.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
sounds like the kind of thing that would stop me playing. I mean, there's loads of games I've got in my past where I've got to a point that's just like, this is awful, and given up, which is unfair and to the game and stupid of me. But it's just those sort of things I think can really derail you and make you hate something enough that I think you got to be very careful when you include those kind of things in your game.
Yeah, because like it's not even really a hard section of game. It's not like, oh, you're gonna get really frustrated and you're not gonna be able to complete it. It's just that it just sucks. It's just quite off-putting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely it feels as if the developers have sort of said, well, you know what this game needs is, it needs a we've been going like full throttle all the way up to this point. We should slow it down a bit. And really, it doesn't need it to make it a better game. If anything, it like we've been saying, it sort of detracts from the whole like pace of the game.
It's the kind of game that needs to be full throttle all the time.
Yeah,
Totally.
yeah, exactly.
Because, I mean, if you need to slow down, just stop playing the game.
Yeah.
Go and have like 2 drags of a cigarette, just like Sam
Yeah.
Gideon.
Get inspired, yeah.
Yeah, films and stuff need sort of pacing a little bit, because if a film is constantly non-stop, it's a bit much. But a game, you just stop for a bit. You have a break. And then you
Right.
go back to sliding around.
The pacing in this game should be like areas full of normal dudes, followed by awesome set pieces where you fight giant robots, which
Yeah.
is what the majority of this game is. But sometimes it fucks it up.
Yeah.
I mean, it does commit a few other video game sins as well as like the forced stealth section. There are a couple of instant kill QTEs that reset you to the back of an enemy encounter.
That's
Which,
pretty rubbish.
Yeah, there's a few enemies you fight near the end, the crystal assassins or whatever the hell they
Oh
are.
goddamn!
Where like you get into a big fight with a bunch of dudes and this one enemy in it that takes loads and loads and loads of damage, and that one enemy can instant kill, quick time event you right to the back of that encounter, so you also have to kill all like the mobs or ads or whatever again as well, which is a bit
Yeah.
sucky.
Yeah, I mean,
The- I got through a few quick time events that were just like, I kind of get it, and it was alright, and like, you're fighting Alpha or Bravo, whichever one he is, for the first time,
Yeah.
and you do one, it's like, okay, well, I did it, and I took off like half his health, and it finished the game, so that finished that bit, so that's alright. Oh well. I can forgive a few quick time events. But then more and more started coming in, like, some of the bigger mobs had them, like the big sort of Megatron style dude.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, and it's just
That's a
like,
very
this is
accurate description, actually. He looks
Yeah.
a lot like Megatron from the Michael Bay Transformers films.
and it's just a bit much. It sounds even more annoying that it can instant kill you.
Yeah. The ones where you have to spin the stick really quickly to spin Sam Gideon up like a drill and have him drill through the arm core robots, or whatever they are, they're pretty good. That's a pretty good quick time event.
so did you play it with a controller then?
Yeah, I played it with a Xbox One controller on the PC.
Okay. Yeah, I was using mouse and keyboard.
Oh, how was that?
It was, I get like, so starting off, I was like, well, do I want to play this with mouse and keyboard, or should I controller it? So I started off playing just like a couple of the first missions and the first act using mouse and keyboard, and it was frustrating at times. But I guess like playing it yesterday and this morning as well, I like it. I actually really got into like it felt really smooth after a while of playing it.
Yeah,
Like,
I bet.
just-
I mean, it's definitely the kind of game which would lend itself to added precision.
Yeah, I mean, I did find like in the early stages, I did find myself like accidentally pressing E when I was trying to reload. But I guess like, yeah, playing it more recently, and I guess it became like second nature, I guess. And yeah, I mean, I found it was quite enjoyable because you zoom around using the shift key, which again is fairly simple to access from the WASD. So it wasn't.
Gonna give you that funky little finger though, isn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it controlled alright. Like I don't really have too many complaints in terms of how well it controlled on mouse and keyboard.
Oh, yeah. The like the controller controls are fine. Yeah, they work pretty well.
Yeah.
It's still a Japanese third-person shooter, which means it doesn't copy Call of Duty controls.
Yeah.
Which is,
Yeah.
like there's like Binary Domain did the same thing. Like Metal Gear Solid 5 does the same thing, where like they just want to mix up how it controls, so it doesn't just copy Call of Duty for everything.
Reload on RB. Ridiculous.
I found myself accidentally meleeing in Destiny loads after playing Vanquish. Which is not great, but yeah.
It does really switch up from the typical shooter thing, because I mean, like, I think in my mind X is usually reload and then Y is usually change weapon, right? And I'm very used to that.
Mm.
And then in this it was just none of that. Like
None of
everything
that
was
at all.
different. And so I did, even after playing it for a bit, I did still find myself a bit just like, oh, it doesn't feel intuitive at all. RB
Yeah.
as a reload is just absurd.
I like RB as a reload, man.
It needs to be like grenade or punch. Anything else is ridiculous.
That's how I liked the old modified boxer. That was what I was all about.
Yeah.
It's
Although
RB as a reload, because it means you end up having like all of your main functions end up on your shoulder buttons, and then your thumbs are just constantly free to be moving and looking.
Yeah, true.
I'm always looking with my thumbs, mate.
It did still have melee on B, which was...
The melee might as well have not been in this game, though. It was so fucking terrible.
It was awful, because you'd use it once and then be completely immobile.
Yeah, I don't. They must have just been like, they must have put the melee in, made it too powerful, and gone, well, how do we balance this? And instead of going, why don't we make it less powerful? Gone, well, the melee still has to be really awesome, so when you press it, something explodes. So why don't we make it so that it uses up all of your suit energy?
Yeah,
And it's just terrible.
It should have
might
at
as well
least
not
just been like
exist.
half. Because all of it was just awful. Because it meant it was pointless.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the only time you'd ever get close enough to melee, you would then want to get away pretty
Slide
quickly.
away, yeah.
And you couldn't do that, so it just became like, well, it was more effective to just run up to someone and shotgun them at point blank range and then slide away.
Although I did find that when you're fighting the Russian flying guy, I was sliding around and I accidentally meleeed, and he did like a fucking flying kick into him.
Yeah.
It was intense. It was
Yeah,
really cool.
if you do slide into melee, you do like a butterfly kick or like a bicycle kick, whatever the hell it is, and you do like a flip and a kick, and it's really cool.
Oh no, but this did this really weird thing in that because all the other enemies don't fly, and the melee is somewhat like auto-locking, right? Because it just kind of does the nearest enemy.
Yeah.
It meant that Sam locked on to the mid-air flying Russian man and just kind of went up there with his melee.
Oh, that is cool.
I was like, this doesn't make any sense, but it was cool.
That's pretty anime. That's good anime, that is.
Accidental anime is the best anime.
Yeah, in anime with intent is alarming at best.
Yeah, full of butts and braces.
I'm arresting you for anime with intent. I don't know.
I think Vanquish does definitely have its fair share of intended anime. So
Some of it is so anime, and I love it. This game was 100% made by a team of Japanese developers working out of Capcom. What do people think of Elena and her definitely not standard issue DARPA uniform?
hey man, you don't know how DARPA operates.
I can guarantee you that the standard issue DARPA skirt is not a fucking mini skirt like that.
It's the most effective space clothing.
Oh my god.
It is actually a little bit a lot. I guess because the main principal characters of this game are robots and giant angry men, and they didn't quite get enough of their like perv on. The principal angle at which you interact with Elena, like the main angle they shoot her from, is an almost upskirt.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's slightly blown, slightly blown in the knees looking up at her.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, I think you see more of her calves than you do her face in this game, and it's a lot. It's not okay.
Oh man.
To be fair, you do see a lot of Sam's calves too. They do like showing off his robot calves. I noticed them a lot.
He does
Maybe
have
that's
sick
just me,
robot
though.
calves.
He had those sexy robot calves, baby. These are the things you need to notice.
Yeah, I mean you do. I know. I think as much as there is that one enemy type that is basically just Megatron from Michael Bay Transformers. There are actually a lot of really great designs in this game. The robot suit looks excellent. There are a bunch of enemy robots. There's one enemy robot that's like a drone helicopter that transforms as it lands into like a bipedal attack thing, which is fucking cool and like proper anime looking.
Yeah, I got so one of the enemies, I guess one of the bosses that I got really confused by when I first saw it was that unknown boss, which
Oh yeah, that's also got a good design.
the first time. So I think the first time you see it is when you're like going. I think you're still on the monorail after you've gotten past all of the searchlights, and you're just like killing some random enemies as you're approaching this room, and like you see him walking around on some piping, and he just starts like firing lasers everywhere, and I'm like, what the fuck's going on? And obviously I don't want to shoot him because he's firing lasers at me. So you get into the next room, and then all of a sudden he comes into the room, and I'm like, what the fuck is it? Like it's literally what is it? It's like a ball of energy which has like about. I'm pretty sure it has all of the weapons. It has like several different arms which just hold all of the weapons, and they just lock onto you and fire at you. It's fucking bizarre, but it looks awesome. I mean, the first couple of times I came up against it, I have to admit, it shredded me to pieces instantly.
Yeah, it's like a football-sized ball of energy surrounded by a constantly moving and changing mess of like junk and guns, isn't it?
Yeah, and like the only way to kill it is to like weaken it down until all of its like armor and whatever like falls off of it, and then it runs around as a ball for a bit, and you have to like target that energy ball explicitly, or you won't really do any kind of damage to it. But yeah, I mean, some of the like you said as well, like the Crystal Viper. The first time you see that was interesting.
There's a lot of really like top design work in this game. I think some of the enemy designs, like a lot of the level designs, I think are cool. There's the bit when you fight that first Crystal Viper, and you're in like the oil rig or the gas refinery or wherever it is, and then everything starts exploding and it ruptures a hole out into space, and shit gets sucked out into space, and then like you get into that bit where you're inside like you're inside the outer wall of the ship or whatever, and then you go into like 0G. Like there is some really cool design work.
Yeah, I mean, one of the enemies that I found the most frustrating was that like that thing that it turned into like some kind of, I guess, mechanical dog with like a scorpion tail that had a gun attached, and then it would often transform and become just like a standing mech. Like I had so much difficulty with those because like they'd run at you, and obviously with me being in cover all the time, I'd try and find some cover, try and get some shots off, and then they transform, run at me, and I try to dodge out of the way so many times, just try and slide out of the way, and I'd get hit by them, and then you go into like, so if you get hit and you're like, I guess close to death, your suit would automatically engage. So I guess so with this suit, if you're sliding around and you aim, it slows down time. And so when you're close to death, it automatically engages that so that you can get out of that sticky situation as quickly as possible. And there were so many times where I tried to dodge out of the way and I just got hit whilst I was sliding, and I'd be thrown out of my slide, and then everything would slow down, which would mean I'd move slower and get away from
Yeah.
the enemy slower. And I just got really annoyed when it was like, I think it might have been like some point in Act 4 when they just sprang two of them on you. And I was just like, oh my god, this is the worst. I kept trying. I think I must have died at least 3 times on that bit. Like, man, I mean, I think that some of the design, or basically most of the design of the enemies is it's actually really really good.
Yeah, but yeah, for sure there are also some like outside of the the physical art, there are definitely some enemies that have a design that is a little bit obnoxious in the way that they interact and can be quite frustrating. Yeah, like the aforementioned unknown, the little football ball of energy with a bunch of like junk around it is a super frustrating boss to fight.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like even those, I guess they took like a note out of Star Wars with those little spheres that would roll around and then transform and then shoot at you a bit and then again roll around a bit more.
Droidicas.
Yeah.
There are definitely droidicas in this game, and they suck just as much as droidicas in Star Wars. Yeah, I thought that actually when they all come rolling out, and it's like, what the fuck are these? And then they deploy into like a turret and they shoot you, and they turn back into a ball and roll away. Yeah, and I found I ended up actually having to just like knee slide around chasing those because I could never get one of them to stand still long enough for me to shoot it.
Oh man.
I don't know, like, what? So overall, I don't know. I can't imagine you're going to go back and finish this game, Dylan.
I might play a bit more, but I mean, I found myself too often just being like, I don't want to be playing this. There were too many points where I just wasn't enjoying. I think the mechanics are too. I like being able to jump. Games where I can't jump, I find quite annoying.
Yeah.
And
I
there
hear
were
that.
too many times playing this game where I was just like, let me fucking jump. This game would be like 10 times better if I could just jump. And that annoyed me a bit too much, so I just, like, imagine doing fucking sick flips in slow-mo and shooting people. Oh man, it'd be good. Oh,
Who
Put
knows?
grappling
Maybe
hook
one
in
day
there.
we'll get a Vanquish too.
add some wall running, make the enemies part of a intergalactic military corporation, add some big robots you can be inside. Oh, it'd be
Play from
perfect
first
game.
person.
Oh, so good. That's what I need. No, but I mean, it's obviously very different, and there were bits of it I did really enjoy, but I think there were too many times where it was just like, I don't want to be playing this. There are other things I could be playing,
Yeah.
like Destiny or Dead Cells. my two big games at the moment.
But you fucking love loot, man.
Oh fuck, I do. Shit.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was actually a rather enjoyable game, like just to play through. I guess like the whole movement system, I guess, made it quite unique in some ways. And
For
I don't know,
sure.
like I know at the end of the game, obviously, like so when you finish it after that final cutscene, it does then bring up a screen and it's like now you can like play through it again on God hard mode, and I'm just like, nah, I'm okay.
Yeah. That was my exact response.
Like
Also,
as
when it
much as
popped up, I was like, no, fuck that, man. I'm definitely not doing that.
Like, yeah, as much as I feel like going through it again, and then I guess like we mentioned, you know, there are different ways to play through it, and I guess if I was to go through it in a similar way to the way that you did it, Mark, and like really get up in people's face with it, I feel like it would probably give me a bit of a different experience with it.
Yeah.
But I feel like I've done all that I want to do with Vanquish for now, at least.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely done with Vanquish for a while, I reckon. I say a while, I don't even know if I'm going to be going back to Vanquish. Vanquish is alright. I enjoyed it. I don't think I need more Vanquish in my life.
Yeah, I think the only reason you'd play it is for something like this. I'm not sure many people would. I don't think it's the kind of thing people go back to, right?
Yeah, no,
I mean, it does have a score mode in it. Like, it does score you. I'm sure there is probably like 7 people on the planet who play a lot of Vanquish and like compete for high scores and stuff.
Yeah, I bet there's probably like a speed run of Vanquish out there somewhere.
Almost certainly. Yeah,
Like,
it's got scores and timers built into
Yeah, I'm gonna go,
like
so
the sections. So
I took a picture of that final results screen. My space score was 9,740. My
nice,
total
nice,
score
nice.
was 299,290. I guess that mission time I think might just be for the last mission. The cover usage I've already said about 70%. Distance traveled, I guess I don't know what unit that's given in, but it says 32,427.
Probably meters then, right?
Munitions, yeah, I guess munitions fired
Man.
about 44,000.
You travelled 32 kilometers in a game.
Mostly on your knees, I imagine.
Yeah.
Oh,
Could be
that,
feet. They do
painful.
use feet in this game, weirdly, don't they? So it could
Yeah.
be feet, which I guess would be slightly more reasonable in a unreasonable way.
I died 18 times, and there were 461 friendlies killed in action. Oh man,
Oh.
I'm such a bastard.
That's loads.
That is a fucking ton, Jack. What the fuck, man?
I only assisted 22 wounded friendlies.
That's awful, Jack.
Oh man.
You son of a bitch.
So so looking through this stat thing, that's another thing that I guess we haven't mentioned, and I know we've come up to the hour mark now, and I guess we'll be finishing soon. But those little statues that you could find.
The Pangloss statues. over
Yeah,
there.
it says here that I only found 9 of them. I don't know how many there are in the game, but
I
there
think
were
I found
ones.
like 3.
Were those little gold dudes that look a little bit like
Yeah.
Oscars? I
Yeah.
shot one. Is that what you meant to do?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
shoot them and they go yippee, or
Yeah.
And they turn red.
I
Yeah.
thought that was weird.
I'm fairly certain I shot one of them and he went motherfucker, which I thought was really weird. But that might have just been me like having a full-on hallucination.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, like I said, like it was a thoroughly enjoyable game to play through. I don't think that I'll ever get around to playing it again. I imagine like the only time that I might revisit it is if they actually like confirm a Vanquish 2 and it looks legit, and perhaps if I want to give myself a bit of a reminder of how the first one ended, I'll probably play through some of it. But even then, there's no guarantee that I'll get Vanquish 2 when it comes out straight away anyway. So
Yeah, that'd be hilarious. If they, I mean, I don't see it happening. I mean, I guess Capcom at the moment are making some pretty wild moves with the shit they're putting out, but I don't see them doing a Vanquish 2. I
What
don't
if
think
they put-
Vanquish 1 sold very well.
What if they put Sam Gideon in Smash Bros?
Yeah, I'm there. Let's go right now. I'm on board.
That's what I need. Because they've already got Bayonetta.
yeah,
That's a platinum character.
Yeah, this is true. This is very true. And they have a bunch of Capcom characters already in there.
Yeah. They could do it. We should petition Sam Gideon for Smash Bros.
Could you imagine it?
I think it would be rubbish. I don't think he'd be a very good Smash character.
Could you imagine knee sliding and then using a useless melee hit to hit Mario?
And then not being able to kill anyone else because you can't move.
Just standing still for a bit. Yeah, okay, maybe not.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to say about Vanquish. I don't think. I
I'll look
had
at my
some
notes.
fun with it.
I'll
I had
see.
some fun with it, but I don't think I'd play it again.
So, mention that knee boosting feels good. Mention the story's ridiculous. Mention that Sam's a prick and it's great. Mention that Elena's DARPA skirt is definitely not standard issue. The main bad guy when you fight Alpha, the red guy who flies around. Did you
Yeah.
notice how they introduce him on a very prominent crotch shot? The
yeah,
first thing you see of him is his bulging crotch piece.
Hey, you gotta show off those cod pieces, baby.
Mentioned that the anti-arm pistol was really good. I mentioned it's anime as fuck. Yeah, that's all my notes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure that I'm all vanquished out for at least another month or so.
I'm
I can't imagine you'll be playing
No,
Vanquish in a month.
no, not at all. And I don't even know why I said that.
Red Dead 2's out in a month, Jack.
Yeah, yeah.
As there is more important shit to do in a month than play Vanquish again.
Isn't that like it's? I read somewhere like so. This is completely off topic.
Yay.
I swear I read that it was like 100 gig installed.
Yeah, it's like 108 gigabytes. Ridiculous.
Damn, fucking hell. Okay.
That's like
yeah.
Halo 5 levels of size.
Yeah, man.
There's a solid meme going around that 30 gigs of that is realistic horse testicles. Good meme.
Oh man.
I think Hitman 2, because in Hitman 2 if you have Hitman 1, you get all of the levels from Hitman 1 in it. I think a complete day one Hitman 2 install, not including any future DLC, is currently predicted to be like 150 gigs.
Fuck me.
Damn.
Yeah, man.
That's insane.
Yeah, that's a lot. I think Hitman 1 is already like 70 gigs or something. Yeah, Hitman 1, a complete Hitman 1 save is 70 gigs. So they reckon that with the current figures for what Hitman 2 is going to be, plus having all that level and all the levels and contents and everything put in, they reckon it's going to be somewhere in like the 150 gig range. Which is a lot.
That's too
Yeah,
much.
That's bare.
I don't have that much space.
Yeah, thank God I bought that 2 terabyte hard drive to put video games on. 'Cause
I was gonna
otherwise
say,
I'd be
yeah,
in a right fucking pickle.
I've got myself an external hard drive now for like literally because I was like, well, I've got all of these like games for gold that I just have sat on my thing, and it's just like I know that it doesn't take up any room just having them there, but it's just like it makes it all a bit cluttered. So I'm gonna transfer some of them across to it. So I guess it will make it nice that I can free up some space. But yeah, it's ridiculous.
Well, you can free up some space, Jack, by, let's be honest, uninstalling Vanquish.
Yeah, that is also true as well.
Alright, that's probably an episode. Vanquish, maybe you should play it. What I will say, actually, as my final recommendation, is if you get the Steam version, it has arbitrary resolution and frame rate up to like 144 hertz. So if you want to play it in 4K at 144 hertz, and I was playing it at 144 hertz for a chunk of it, and it does look fucking good. Like yeah. So that is maybe my recommendation: is if you fancy playing a reasonable third-person shooter, but you have a high frame rate monitor, this is one that takes advantage of that.
Yeah.
Fair.
All right, cool.
Yeah, I've got nothing else to say about it. I think we've said all that I can say at least. So, seems like a good place to end.
Yeah, all right, cool. This has been a podcast. Find us on the internet.
We won't
our
tell
new
you
outro.
where. Just
Nailed it.
It's actually the Shouting Over Static ARG. We're somewhere on the internet. Find us.
If you can find us, it's like a Where's Wally for the entire internet.
Our American audience isn't going to understand. That's Where's Waldo for you guys.
Oh, Waldo is such a bad name.
It makes no sense. Why would you look for Waldo?
Yeah, I would leave him behind. If someone's like, tell me where Waldo is, I'd be like, fuck that dude.
Next month on Shouting Over Static, we play Where's Waldo.
There must be a Where's Wally game, right?
Yeah, 100%.
It's just like the ultimate extension of all of those like picture hunt games.
Yeah, basically. Or fucking Prop Hunt from Gary's mod, but with Waldo.
terrible NES game, Where's Waldo?
We've derailed the ending of our show. How have we done this?
There's more important things at stake here, guys. If you search Where's Waldo in Steam, you get a game called Hidden Folks. Which, actually, maybe we should play this. It's got overwhelmingly positive reviews, and it looks really hard.
Is it literally just looking for things?
Yeah, but in like really intricate black and white line drawings.
Holy shit.
It looks really hard. Alright, well, okay, we actually haven't, because we're terrible, we actually haven't worked out what we're playing next month, so tune in next week to find out.
It's a cliffhanger. It's how we keep you coming back in to Shouting Over Static. Or Shouting Over the News next week, I guess.
Yeah. Find us on SoundCloud, find us on iTunes. I still haven't got the YouTube sorted out, because my thing is broke.
The brookest.
It's brooking, mate. It's keeping MCs looking out. Right. Bye.
See ya.
Bye.